Hi, I'm Joanna Endter, Wada, and I work with the Center for Water Efficient Landscaping, and I'm going to give you the people perspective. We've been talking about how we predict future climate and what it portends. How we adapt to it is the piece of the water system that we have a little bit more control over. And so we have a great opportunity to be better prepared with our adaptability and flexibility to a variable and changing climate. So I want to tell you a little bit about WaterMAPS. It's one of the water conservation tools that's been developed by the Center for Water Efficient Landscaping. You've heard about some of the other things that we've been doing. WaterMAPS is a software application that helps to analyze and manage urban landscape water use. People are becoming ever more sophisticated data consumers, and how data is packaged and interpreted and presented to them, we think makes a difference for their behavior. And so this is a tool to help convey information to them in a way that we hope is compelling. WaterMAPS is based on the concept of environmental norming, and what that means is that we want people to use water in relationship to the environmental need of the landscapes that they're attempting to preserve, as Larry just talked about and Roger. We take this approach because we think it's entirely consistent with Utah law, that people should have the right to use water or make beneficial use of it, but without waste. We recognize that there are different water needs of turf versus trees and shrub, and all the water check tries to reinforce this with people, how to meet the plant water needs, but without wasting water. And there are ways to incorporate in our analysis low water use landscape. But based on this ecologically appropriate standard of how much different urban lots need, it very much individualizes this to each customer. So WaterMAPS integrates a lot of different data sets, but we use aerial imagery. One of the things I want to point out here is that we do adjust the parcel size to include parking strips to account for that, because people water it even though that may not be part of their property boundaries. We recognize that they're watering their parking strips. WaterMAPS identifies capacity to conserve water applied to urban landscapes. It does it through an approach that can be done a number of different ways, according to policy assumptions, by calculating these parcel scale landscape irrigation ratios. It allows you to differentiate, even in a very small neighborhood, who might be overusing compared to who may be using more efficiently. And it has a very simple and transparent rationale. How much are you using and how much does your landscape need? And calculating that ratio will show people that they have capacity to conserve and hopefully show them that they could conserve without compromising the aesthetic value of their landscape. So WaterMAPS has a couple of different functions. It has an assessment function where we can identify these locations within a large service area. It has a delivery function, a water use reports, or a way to give that information directly back to people, an information provision function, and then track people's water use over time and how you can monitor conservation success or where you know you may need further intervention if you're trying to promote water conservation. So here are a couple examples. In an assessment function, you could look across a large service area and zoom into a neighborhood view to find out where you could direct water conservation efforts. The other management function this can serve is to help you assess the capacity to find existing supplies within your own service area through conservation programming. Delivering this is just an example of a report that we used here with Weber Basin. They've continued to implement a program to promote water efficiency by showing people how much they're using compared to how much their landscape needs, and a very simple graphic showing the difference in the blue, how much they use and how much they need in the green, can help people realize the potential they have to conserve. We've been looking at this at finer and finer scales on a monthly basis and over time, and looking at how people's water use is highly variable, and how it varies in relation to climate is one of the dynamics of the human element of the water system that we're trying to get a better handle on. Tracking water use is, this is an example of efficiency gains and how you can track that. In Weber Basin, just between 2002 and 2013, on pressurized secondary systems where metering was implemented, you can see that there was a vast improvement in just 1 year based on people reacting to these reports. The left-hand side shows the green is efficient, blue acceptable, inefficient, and the left-hand side of each of these shows if people who were within their water allocations, that's a wrinkle in Weber Basin, and how many were over their allocations in a subsequent year. Going from 60% below their allocations to 85% is a tremendous gain. And from what I understand, Scott can talk more about this, or Darren, they've continued to see conservation savings over time. What we're trying to do is train people in the habit of adjusting their behavior in relationship to the weather, but with the goal of just basically meeting plant water need and not wasting water. Another example of the tracking function is using the analytics for good policy design. One of the common policies that people use to promote conservation is don't water during the middle of the day. But when we look at hourly data, we see that people are not watering during the middle of the day, but that the overuse is occurring in the evening hours. So getting down to the quantities, not just when they're using it, is extremely important. So the other thing that we're doing is trying to track conservation progress in two different ways. How did the participants do? And did they increase, decrease? Were they efficient to begin with and they maybe never needed a water check? This was done in connection with water checks. Or are they completely inefficient and maybe we need a different approach? But we're also looking at the conservation program's effectiveness, reflecting back on the conservation program itself and what it could do differently in further interventions with people on an iterative basis to instill those habits and to help them know how to conserve water. So some of the impacts and the potential of this is helping to identify these water conservation opportunities, providing the relevant information for their own use, interpreted to tell them how efficient they're being, to help people understand their own water needs and their own use. We want to broaden the influence of conservation programs so you could go out and seek people who are overusing and try to deliver programs to them instead of delivering programs to people who may not need it if you're looking for the conservation savings. And I think all the programming that we're doing within Seawell is trying to promote the long-term habit change by helping citizens monitor their own conservation success as well as helping us do it at a utility level. And we need to prepare for droughts, water scarcity, and this variability that we're still a little bit uncertain about. So anyway, I think this, to wrap up the Seawell portion of it, we're helping Utah address Western water challenges. And I just want you to pay attention to the verbs: living with aridity, responding to drought, adapting to climate change. All the verbs refer to human behaviors. What we can do to live in this environment in a more sustainable manner and to use water wisely. Okay, thank you.